Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Nicole, for joining me here today. I won't read Nicole's bio out to you because it's on the app, but I would tell you how I met Nicole and why she's here. I met Nicole when we organized a next-gen field trip to her factory of food. I don't know what you call it, X Space. And this was in a food industry zone in Singapore. And I think she made a few people in the group cry. A few of the girls came up to me later and said, oh, that was such a powerful, how Nicole shared what she's gone through as an entrepreneur. So Nicole comes from a very traditional family business, and family businesses have for generations been the building block of Singapore's economy before you see Singapore to be what it is today. We were not very different from our Southeast Asian neighboring countries, even China and India, until I think things really started to change materially in the 90s, would you say? So the food business that Nicole runs is a food supply trading business. And today, Nicole is thinking about all sorts of things from how to add tech to food, and also, very meaningfully, how she's used tech for purpose in making sure that people don't go hungry with food bank. Maybe I'll invite Nicole to share her journey herself as to how you move from being part of a family business to food bank.
Thanks, Sharon. A very good morning to everybody. So first up, it's really nice to be here today. I'd like to say that our company feels a little bit like a startup, but with an 80-year-old soul. So in the year 2007, after 5 years in the family business, I actually set up food services, and I bought over the family business. So a little bit, just backtrack a little bit. My grandfather came from China in 1934 with his younger daughter. He left one of my aunties behind in China after his first wife passed away in search of a better life. And that was pre-World War I. And typical story in a bungboat with a rattan basket and a young girl, right? And of course, subsequently, he met my grandma. They had 9 children, perfect family planning, 3 girls, 3 boys, 3 boys, 3 girls, 3 boys, all 9, all 1 year apart. And they were brought up in a small shop house at Rochor Road. If some of you are foreigners, I think 50% of the room, if you Google Rochor Road, right, it used to be by the sea. So we were actually serving the roadside hawkers. So we've been in food distribution very much since the 1930s. So my uncles, my eldest and my third uncle was the first to pivot the business a little bit. In 1965, when Singapore gained independence and started industrialization, Western hotels started popping up. So they wanted to move from the Chinese food stuff into the Western food items. So we've been serving a majority of the hotels since the 1960s. So in case some of you are staying at Orchard Road and not in this swanky W Hotel, we used to be serving the current Hilton Hotel, which was the Mandarin Orchard back in the day. So all the way since it's open till now. So what I wanted to say is that in our trade, very much is male-dominated. Very female CEOs at the moment, even till today. So what do? We are basically a food service company. So think of us like a ninja van or a concierge service for B2B. So we serve currently 5,000 over F&B establishments, including the W Hotel, your Shake Shacks, your hawker stalls, your school canteens, a wide spectrum of customers. But I would like to say that my own entrepreneur spirit was very much inspired by my late father. And I think at that point in time, when the Next Gen team came to visit our building, I shared the story about my dad as well. So my late father, who was a school dropout at 15, I'm not recommending that, but he was terrible in school. So he was a school dropout at 15. He was number 8 of 9 children. But he was the one who built the empire that I was brought up in, right, in the 80s and the 90s. So my dad actually, in the early 90s, had 40 companies in 25 countries, and turnover was 250 million US dollars, which is about $1 billion in today's value. For a small Singaporean SME, so what did he do? I think even more exciting than some of your startups. Everything from movie making in Hong Kong, to seafood trawling in Cape Town, South Africa, to building the first duty-free shop in the Maldives. I was in Maldives in 1988 when the tap water was still yellow. And basically, he made his first bucket of gold trading alcohol, cigarettes, for example. And I guess he never gave up, and he continuously was building, right? So he built a life for my uncles, for my cousins, put them through school, for example. And then came the 1997 currency crisis. Some of you old enough to remember. If not, you can do a research. My father actually lost 39 of the 40 companies. And I personally was there when the banks came to seize the house. So as a simple 18, 19-year-old girl to witness that, it's like a typical TVB drama, really, like a policeman, the security guard, came with the banker and a white piece of paper to paste at your house door. And actually, you have 30 minutes to pack whatever you can pack within the house. Everything else is the banks. So for someone who was brought up in that environment, I felt that sense of responsibility that if I should have the ability to continue my grandfather's business, because my dad managed to ring-fence my grandfather's business in 2000. So all my uncles and my dad went back just to focus on the food business, and back then it was like $2-3 million. It was really, really small. I went out to work, and in 2002, before SARS, shortly before SARS, my first project was, my father asked me, can you come back and digitize the family business? So when you say digitization, this is 20 years ago, and some of you maybe are not born yet. I don't know, all of you look very young. I entered a business with those dot matrix printer that go I don't know whether any of you have heard of those printers before. Fax machine, telex machine, right? So that was, 20 years ago. And basically how we process orders, even for hotels, is saddle stitch carbonated invoice paper with the blue color thing, in between. So that was the industry that I entered 20 years ago. It's not that long ago, 2 decades ago. So my father actually asked me to, hey, I need someone to help me put computers, in the company, because the hotels were digitizing, they were moving towards e-procurement and things like that. So I joined a traditional business, being the youngest female, being the youngest employee in the entire team. And I must share, my uncles actually gave me 1 year to survive. Said, I'll give you 1 year and see how well you survive, because all the executive chefs were males. Most of them were males back then. Till today, they are still predominantly males. Female CEOs were unheard of in the food distribution trading business. Till today, it's still the case. And of course, back then, I was still wearing my 5-inch heels, and my hair was long and red before I got married. And so my uncles wrote me off. They gave me 1 year. So, but here I am, 20 years on, because I found something very special in the business that my grandfather started. We are not a food distributor, we are not a food trader. Basically, we are the heart and soul, we are a dedicated partner to ensuring the success of our F&B clients. So for example, Black Tap is our customer. If you have drank their milkshakes that are $20 or something, because they will make me fly the M&Ms from the US, right? For Easter, I need that 2 cartons of M&Ms to top the milkshakes that Shake Shack and Black Tap actually serves, right? So we are like a concierge service. So I witnessed it myself. My uncles were buying soya sauce from this shop and then selling to the hotels, right? And the chef would actually call, hey, Mr. Ng, can you please help me with this? So we are truly, truly like the Red Marts or the e-commerce platforms back in the day. It's just that it was very traditional. So I came into the business, and I'm a tech idiot. Okay, I hate tech. Till today, I'm not tech savvy at all. Okay, I actually went through 11 ERP systems before I stumbled upon Great Plains under Microsoft, because our entire team doesn't even know what a CPU or a mouse is. And most of them are Mandarin speaking. So when I told them, this is a mouse, this is a CPU, some of them say, what is a 老鼠? For those of you. So I'm not kidding, but 20 years ago, from handwritten, we transformed the entire team. I'm proud to say that the longest serving employee still has been with me for 45 years. So we actually train them. We don't make them obsolete. And I think with technology these days, you are able to keep on upgrading people regardless of age, regardless of gender, and regardless of their backgrounds as well. So to me, I feel that tech was an enabler. It's also a leveler as well. And as I mentioned, in 2007, we set up food services. We started afresh, and my brother joined me in 2008. It's been 2 of us ever since. And I think before I hand the mic over to Sharon, her next question likely to me is, we decided very early on that if we had an opportunity to revive my grandfather's business, bring it to a steady state, we would want to give back to society. And therefore, we started the Food Bank Singapore in 2010. Yeah, and 2012, sorry, 10 years ago. If I may just share a joke with you, okay, any government officials here, I will just tell you, because all the founders here have a problem naming their tech startups. So as a startup in the NGO space, my first obstacle was the government actually rejected the name of the organization. They didn't allow me to register the Food Bank Singapore. They said, oh, Singapore no more banking license already. I'm not kidding. It took me like 3 months to do like international research to say Food Bank is an organization, non-profit, global, blah, blah, blah. 10 years on, here we are. I think the Food Bank Singapore has left quite a lot of impactful and interesting creative changes as well. Yeah.
So I think Food Bank is a very meaningful project for you, and I think for a lot of people it's quite a game changer. And we talked about tech that you use to transform a traditional family business from fax and papers and telexes. How did you use tech to transform, charity? Because that's what Food Bank is. It distributes food to the poor.
Yeah. So I think the NGO space is just as competitive as startups. Everyone is fighting for the same pot of gold. Everyone is fighting for the same donor dollar. Agree? I think some of you would agree. It's difficult, right? You always have to pitch. So when we started in 2012, we made a commitment that, number one, we need not be the biggest charity, but we need to come in to fill the gaps in the ecosystem. Because doing good, it's not about being bigger and bigger, isn't it? It's about how can we collaborate with each other to make sure that every gap in the ecosystem is filled. So our mission for the Food Bank is very simple. We want to close ourselves down originally by 2025. That means it's to end food insecurity in all forms in Singapore by 2025. If there was one country in the world that can end food insecurity, that country would be Singapore. So back to Sharon's question of how did we embrace tech. So firstly, as an organization, I think innovation is at the core of our NGO. So I remember 2 years in, 2014, we actually celebrated World Food Day by using excess food and making it into art pieces. So we wanted to give food a new lease of life. And that itself was just to tell people that, hey, food is not always rubbish after its past expired date, right? It can still be given a new lease of life, whether it's through art form. And I remember 3 years into Project Expired, the 3rd year we did fashion with expired food. So we had bikinis and the instant packet noodles, and stuff, and then the people made it into fashion and skirts and things like that. But as an NGO, do I have to do that? I don't think I have to do that. The same case for tech. A lot of our NGOs are still, so either there are 2 buckets of NGOs, the very traditional ones, or the very high-tech new ones that just started to emerge out, right? So a lot of times when I give talks or when I mentor the younger startups of NGO spaces, I always tell them this, and I say, please don't go and recreate something that someone else has already done. Can you be a part of a slightly larger organization and make the impact in that organization? Because likely, the person that you want to serve is already in that network or in that beneficiary database, so that you don't have to start from zero or from nothing. But your tech and your whatever that you want to do can still make the change there. So for us, there were a couple of tech projects that we're quite proud of. Actually, in 2019, we developed the world's first food aid dispensing vending machine. Okay, so we distribute this bank card. Okay, it's not money inside, but it's food credits. And basically, by tapping on the vending machine, the underprivileged can actually redeem food at any time of day, 24/7. So currently, we have 60 to 70 machines peppered all around the island, and people can just redeem whatever food that they need. In 2020, together with Philips, we also developed the vending machine that dispenses frozen, nutritious meals together with the Singapore Heart Foundation. So the idea really is that with a simple high-tech machine, high-tech vending machine, you are able to track how people claim and whether this area is underserved or overserved. And the other question that I think some of you will be having at the back of your minds is, what about the elderly underprivileged? Because that was a question that I always get. Do you know that they enjoy technology so much? It's like they are queuing in front of the vending machines, like, when are you filling up the machines? You know, I want to open the magic box, as we call it, 开宝箱, as they say in Chinese, right? So the aunties and uncles was really craving to learn and to have a part, to choose what they want to consume. I think now with technology, the other part that I wanted to say, together with the same bank card, last year we actually launched a program with some of the food courts and Subway as well, where the underprivileged can walk in and redeem a meal. So I think in Singapore, a lot of people don't want to get meals delivered to their homes anymore. They actually want to have a choice. And actually with COVID, the increasing need on the ground, especially in Singapore, for example, is that people want to choose what they want to eat. So for the Food Bank Singapore, what we did was, using technology, we want to reduce food waste, we want to increase accessibility, and we want to empower people to have a choice by using things like the bank card, for example, where they choose what they want to eat, what time they want to eat. You know, if it's end of the day, you know, mid-10 o'clock, we also started dispensing some bank cards to students as well, because there are Subway shops in the schools. So, but what I'm saying is that technology can be quite empowering, even for an NGO, and actually that's our end goal, to make them feel respected and to make them feel wanted as well.
So I think Nichol and I, in preparation for this discussion, actually had a chat about the importance of having a choice, even though you're poor or you're old. And that's especially important because I've encountered myself delivering food or thinking that we're doing a good deed by giving food to someone living in a rental flat, and you see stacks and stacks of rice in the corner that others have given before, and it's not being consumed, and it's actually, you know, accumulating bugs. And we actually met a lady who said, can you please take the Milo that you brought for us back? I just have too much of this. So there's a problem with, you know, when you do charity, you need to think about what you think the beneficiary wants. Is it really what they need? And that brings me to the next question about tech for tech's sake versus tech for good. You've also had issues implementing tech and perhaps, you know, realizing that actually it didn't pay off in the same way that you feel it should. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think first off, if your business is not in tech itself, I mean, which is everything about your business, right? It's all technology. But for a traditional business and an NGO like ours, I feel that technology is an investment, and it's also a gamble, right? Sometimes you embrace certain tech, or you want to implement certain technology, but it may not take off in the way that you envision it to be. So I give it probably two examples. So the first example is for our traditional business. If any of you are based in Singapore, I'll welcome you to visit Space at 218 Pandan Loop. It is a co-working, collaboration, co-cooking space that was TOP'd in January 2020. It is quite a nice, innovative little space. And we have a lot of technology in that building. The building itself is an innovation within the F&B supply chain ecosystem. We imagine it to be like a Silicon Valley for anybody within the F&B space. So now we have central kitchens there, Cookie Ice Cream & Co. is producing there, Garrett Popcorn is produced there as well. So, but the early days of developing the space concept, very little people understand about collaboration in the F&B space. So a lot of times they are thinking that we are a typical landlord and you have to take the largest footprint or the largest room available, right? So, but for us is we tell all the kitchens and all the F&B establishments that work with us and take the smallest space because we will provide the rest of the services. So I think space was still an investment for us. I don't know whether we're going to break even anytime soon, but for sure, we are making a lot of ripples because there are interested players to bring space to other parts of Southeast Asia, where all F&B players can come together to collaborate, a little bit like a WeWork or a JustCo, where all of us can come into the same ecosystem, right? So that's one. And then I think for the food bank side, we actually developed a virtual food banking app. So we have not given up on it yet, but with the advances of technology, and a charity, we don't have the ability to keep on financing the back-end coding, and getting the right engineers to do all those things. But the idea is, imagine if we had a marketplace for donations where any one of you or any one of the supermarkets can just post their items on that platform, and the beneficiaries can go in to select what they want, like shopping. So we already started that in 2018. So we are still, working on it. It's still a work in progress. But our vision very much is to put the choice into the beneficiaries or the fellow NGOs that we work with. We work with 370 charity organizations for them to make real-time selection of whatever donations that comes in. And ultimately, I'm even thinking of getting a Grab, for example, to come and help to deliver the items to move from point A to point B. So basically, the entire ecosystem can be autonomous. Food bank doesn't need to be around to interact with it at all. And the most important thing, which I think a lot of people fail to realize or tap on, is that with technology, we are able to get data. And with big data, we can then make a big difference. Yeah.
Has it been difficult with the pandemic for you and your business in the past 2 years?
Yeah, I think for sure, at least for the traditional business side, our largest client was like Singapore Airlines, Marina Bay Sands, for example. So the first 6 months or so, I think sales dropped off like 70%. But we are very thankful that the business at the food bank side actually took off. In 2020, during phase 1, we actually gave door-to-door 1 million meals to all the underprivileged. And so every time we say, don't let go of a crisis, right, an opportunity to learn. So for us, in 2020, 2021, we were very, very fortunate to realize 2 things. So firstly, we innovated for the sake of being purposeful to the ecosystem, whether is it for our business or for the NGOs. And with that, it actually paid off because although there was no business at Marina Bay Sands, they themselves were zero occupancy, there was no banquets, right? But they came to us and they saw us as a business partner to continue doing good. Because they suddenly had I don't know how many, 1 ballroom full of vegetables and fruits that they had to throw away. So they picked up the phone and called the Food Bank Singapore and said, hey, would you like to take all these watermelons and honeydews and give it a new lease of life? So I think with innovation, with CSR, with technology, in fact, it has placed our company in the forefront or in the minds of many other partners or business partners and clients as well. Although it doesn't, the returns are not immediate, but I think that has put us in a better place. Yeah.
We're going to almost run out of time, so my last question would have to be parked for next time. But let me ask this. What does daring to be, our conference theme, mean to you?
Daring to be means knowing your USP. I've got 4 kids between 3 and 10, and I've started telling them from young that what is your USP? And the kid will look at me like, Mommy, what is USP, right? So I say in each and every
superpowers.
Superpowers. Your unique superpowers, right? 4 kids, same genes, same husband and wife, all 4 different agendas, all 4 different identities. But I think from young, especially in the Asian or education system, we don't ask the children, what's your USP? Because we're all made from the same cookie cutter, like you need to be a graduate, you need to run this side, you need to... But how do you fail successfully? Or how do you fail brilliantly? Right? My eldest child has ADHD and she has cognitive processing issues, but she's exceptionally bright and gifted. But how do I tell her that these are your weaknesses, these are your plus points, and as a mom, what I choose to do is really to harness the USP of every single child that comes through my doors. But importantly, as an employer, it is very important to also ask ourselves, what is our employees and teammates' USP, right? Not everybody is made the same, and can we harness their superpowers as well? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nichol. We have 22 minutes left, 22 seconds left. How would you like to use technology going forward?
Don't use tech for tech, but use tech for good. That's what I would say.
Thank you very much.